Hello and welcome to episode 11 of Rival Banter. I'm one of your hosts, Luke Croft. Joining me, as always, the esteemed Reverend Seth Martin.
Hello, everyone.
Big day coming up for you tomorrow as the papal election begins. How are you feeling about your chances?
Well, you win some, you lose some. It's a pleasure just to be nominated.
As a male on this earth, you qualify. You just have to
Yeah,
be
yeah.
willing to, you know, be baptized and become a priest and a bishop and forsake your family and move to the Vatican. But
hmm
you get to ride in the
hmm
Pope mobile. So,
That almost makes it all worthwhile.
oh, how you doing, my friend? How's your week been?
I'm good. It's been a good week. Just we're kind of that winding down point of the school year. I'm just exhausted all the time. I think it's the weather and all that stuff. Plus, just like end of the year slog. You're getting through it. We've got SOLs going on. That means standards of learning for those of you outside of Virginia. We've
The
got standards.
owls, I
We've
believe,
got
is
to
what they're
teach them.
called everywhere else.
Yeah, you got to study for your owls every every quarter or whatever it is. No, that's what you take when you're like 16, whatever, Harry Potter stuff. But you know,
Hmm.
I don't know. No, it's been a good week. We just I bought MLB TV. I was just talking to you about that before the show and watching a little baseball. Getting back into the swing of things. Charlotte's been sucking ass in soccer, but that is what it is too. Not really. They're on like a two-game loss streak. Finally got their first at-home loss a couple weeks
Do
ago.
they
It's
play
been
once a
trash.
week? Is it like EPL?
Oh, yeah. Right now they've got like another like cup game going on. It's like not a necessarily an MLS thing, but they're playing like
Hmm.
another North Carolina team. Um, but yeah, once a week pretty much. Usually Saturday or Sunday.
Hmm. Yes, they're playing the Papa Murphy's U8 youth team.
Water.
No, that's cool. I'm excited about you getting MLB TV. You know me, I'm a big baseball nerd. I've got the Cleveland game up while I'm podcasting with you. We had a doubleheader today. Game got rained out
Mm.
yesterday, so we're in game two. We lost 10-9 earlier today. Um,
Yeah, I've got the Yankees up myself. They probably should have canceled the game yesterday because it was pouring rain. I felt terrible for those guys. Whatever, they get paid.
yeah, they get paid way more than we'll ever see. So they can play in a little bit of rain, but yeah, I'm excited about you getting MLB TV and we can start chatting baseball. If only MLB the Show had online franchise, but they took that feature out. They no longer have
Really?
it. Yeah, it's so stupid.
That's dumb as hell.
Um, but yeah. Anyway, hey, real quick, I learned a fun fact. You haven't watched Righteous Gemstones yet, but
No.
in the latest season, they just had the series finale of it. There's a monkey named Dr. Watson that's a prevalent part of season 4. And I learned today that the monkey that plays Dr. Watson is the same monkey that plays Marcel in Friends.
No way. That guy's like 40 years old then.
The monkey is 31.
31. Okay, close.
I was like, that's crazy. That's insane.
I
But it is
didn't
funny that you
realize
thought
monkeys had
40
that kind
because
of
that was
span.
my original thought too, because I was thinking like a human, like, oh, that monkey can't work until it's like
That's
15, right?
yeah, that's probably what it is. He was probably like one or
Yeah, he's
something
probably
like
like
that, right?
3 when he was on Friends or something like that. So,
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. But well,
but
when you're an animal, you're an adult after like a year anyway,
that,
right? So
yeah, yeah, that's true. So,
or is he like a gorilla now? Like he's grown?
I think it's still a monkey. I think that's how
Okay,
monkeys work. I think you just stay a monkey the whole
evolved
time.
from monkey to ape or something like that.
I mean, if we came from monkeys, Seth, tell me this: why do we still have monkeys? All right.
You can't prove to me if you can't change monkey into a gorilla.
This is Rival Banter. We get together every Tuesday over here on twitch.tv/it is Hoagie. And we talk about Marvel Rivals and Major League Baseball and the theory of evolution and all of its problems, and the shape of the
Gravity's
earth,
a hoax.
which is flat.
Hell yeah,
I
brother.
I challenge anyone to get up in an airplane and look across the horizon and tell me if you see a curve. All right. If you missed the podcast, though, you can go check us out over on YouTube and on podcast services everywhere. Wherever you're listening to us, though, we appreciate you. We love you. And make sure you hit that follow button and leave us a comment like so many have. We, first of all, let me just say this, guys. For the 11th week in a row, we have beat our week one downloads for our episode. So the podcast continues to grow. We continue to pick up new listeners. And it's all thanks to you guys tuning in, sharing the video clips that we're posting over on social media and stuff like that, engaging with what we're putting out there. And it's awesome. So if you're a Marvel Rivals player that listens to this and you have friends who play Marvel Rivals as well, share this show with them. We want to have conversations with you guys. And if you leave comments, we're going to try to respond to them, just like these two comments that were left on Spotify for us. So Easy Coda doesn't want to get doxxed, left himself a screen name. He said, "Hello, your friendly strat scrub here." He says, "I feel like Necros wasn't truthfully the tipping point, but added fuel to the fire of the support strike situation. At least for me, I personally still play strat because it's the role I enjoy most in the game. I also feel as though that the performance-based ranked system should be based on the role you're playing to an extent. For instance, if you're a strat, the amount of healing should contribute more than getting last hit / damage, though still important." Thoughts on that, Seth?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely like that. Because again, that is a very different ball game. Yeah, they have buffed, some of Hello Cat. There's a cat on the screen
Oh, it's a
for the audio listeners
kitty.
at home. That's Puddin'. There she is, Lila Denise. Um, and yep, there's the cat's asshole, and there we go. All right, beautiful. Anyway,
You can check out the video on youtube.com.
ooh, baby, yeah, whatever, it's what the people pay to see.
That's right.
Um, Yeah, I mean, that would be awesome, I think. In a perfect world, we could kind of differentiate that. Yeah, they've buffed, strats, uh, kind of like compatibility, like their ability to fight a little bit. But it's still a very different ball game. You're not doing DPS numbers by any means unless you're just that good. So, I really like the idea of that kind of like compensating, and that would, I definitely think, incentivize people to play the role a little bit more if you knew that you could get, some worthwhile numbers or stat points, RP, whatever, out of playing that role. Now, will that make people start going for supports? Who knows? But we can cross that bridge when we get there. I really like that idea, Coda. Can I call you Coda?
As a big baseball fan, Seth, I'm sure you're a big understander of things like advanced metrics, sabermetrics, and the sorts, the things of Moneyball, right?
Well, I'm a medium, a light to medium baseball fan, but I don't have spreadsheets like we established last week. But whatever. Still impressed by that, by the way.
So if you've watched Moneyball, which I haven't, but I know the premise, right? But
That's the Brad Pitt one, right?
yeah, with like
Yeah, yeah.
with Jonah
Chris
Hill and
Pratt, the gang.
yeah.
Was he in that?
I don't think Chris Pratt
Whatever.
was. I think Jonah Hill was.
Maybe that. Yeah, okay.
One of the fat funny guys, formerly fat funny guys, they both lost a tremendous amount of weight.
Yeah, they look better than I do now.
Yeah. Well, I'm not agreeing with you. I'm just because I don't agree. You look great. So.
Go fuck yourself, pretty boy.
Anyway, so baseball is a game of numbers. I like. I was gonna say something, but I'm gonna skip saying that part. But anyway, baseball's a game of numbers, right? Like you can read the story of a baseball game in a newspaper probably better than you can read the story of any other sport. But you have different layers of statistics in baseball. So there's the statistics that every average baseball fan's going to know. Things like your batting average, your on base percentage, and things like that. Your RBIs, your home runs, and things like that. And those are going to give you a little bit of an indicator of how good a player is. But what baseball statisticians have realized is that there are certain better metrics that can be used to give a more holistic picture of how much a player is contributing to the team's on-field success. So there's things like BABIP or OPS plus, or, any number of these sorts of metrics. I'm saying all that just to say this is that I think the scoreboard metrics that we get in Marvel Rivals are the batting average, RBI, home run, kind of like baseline numbers of how you contribute to your team's success. And that there's really no like advanced metric way of determining via a number how you contribute. So I, I think on the surface it sounds great to say like, hey, healers should get some sort of performance based boost based off of the amount or percentage of healing that they do. But then I think about all of the games that you and I have been in, Seth, with the Rocket Raccoons who just do 50K healing and 300 damage, right? And it's like, okay, does that guy get a giant performance boost for hitting one button all game and not doing anything else to contribute to the team? Like,
I mean, that's true. I think that's gotten a little better since season two
yeah, it
launched
definitely
the
has.
rocket problem in general. But I definitely get what you mean. Um, yeah, I mean, the argument is, I think, with a lot of people about that in particular is, like they're compensating for the damage with the healing output, but you also kind of have to have the damage too.
Mhm.
But I don't know. I'm not saying I think it should be 100% just based on your healing, but I think that if that did play a heavier factor or a larger factor in the equation, then that could be cool and definitely would help. I think.
And I get why we don't get like this under the hood kind of view of what exactly is contributing to these performance based analysis for, because then you're just going to learn to like min max the system, right? It's like you're not necessarily focusing on contributing to win, you're focusing on getting the stats that are going to give you the biggest boost. But I do think that I would be interested to know, like, okay, what all is being factored into these boosts, like, and for a DPS player, is it really just I'm focusing on final hits and damage? Where if I'm playing healer, is it like a bunch of other contributing factors like those plus my healing, plus my assists and things like that as well? I think we're going to look back in a couple seasons at season two and say, man, do you remember back when they tried to do the performance based scoring in ranked and then they kind of scrapped that? Like, I just think it's a hard system to balance. And I think, everybody has their kind of ideal version of this in their head. But then when you start to scratch at that surface a little more, that you start to unearth the problems around it. But that's not to say that I don't agree. Like I do think that healers should be rewarded for doing the things that are more in line with their role, healing, assisting, things like that. But is 150 healing outside of combat, between fights, as valuable as 50 healing when somebody's teetering on the edge of getting killed mid fight? Right? Like, how do you assess the value? But
That's deep. That's deep as hell.
but appreciate the comment, Easy Coda. Um, and then Justin O'Shaughnessy, doxing him
He's
again.
back.
He's back. He says, I deleted my comment because I didn't want to sound like a D bag. LOL. You only get like 400 characters to type on Spotify, and it's not always enough to convey the full message. Great show, guys. I'll stop right there and then I'll finish the message. Appreciate that, and no harm done. Everybody's got their opinions on shows and dynamics and those sorts of things. The fact that you show up week in week out means that you tolerate us enough to come back. So we appreciate it, and we're always open to feedback on how we can make the show better. He continues, Patch Wolverine was his quote unquote disguise after the X-Men were supposed to be dead following the Outback era, I believe. For a while, Wolverine refused to pop his claws and he wore the patch to hide his identity while in Madripoor. It didn't work though. Everyone in the comics knew it was Wolverine the whole time. Um, I
That's
wonder why.
hilarious. Right. No other giveaways. Right. No, that's funny. Justin, we appreciate it for sure. I definitely, any feedback, anything like that, especially, it definitely helps us, consider what we want the show to look like. And, if nothing else, it's just a way to reflect. But yeah, definitely we appreciate you coming out. We appreciate the engagement too, just commenting, staying like involved with the show. It means a lot. So we appreciate it.
For sure, for sure. Um, Also, I just love that they didn't stick with the whole like we put an eye patch on him and it just worked as a disguise. So if it's lore accurate that he put this patch on and everybody was like, "What the fuck is Wolverine doing?" I I think that's awesome.
What is this? What is this?
Also got a comment. We got several comments on YouTube. I'm not going to read them all, but
No shit.
I shared a clip, some clips from the show last week, and one of the clips was talking about how last week we were talking about how a lot of people approach playing video or learning to play video games like studying for a test. They go and watch a video and think that's automatically going to make them better. OG Charlie Bone says, "Holy shit." This is true. Sometimes there's unknown tech to make you a little better with someone, but to get better at the game overall is not going to be watching guides only. You've got to practice it. There is no one who picks up the game and is just amazing immediately. There are people with good aim and awareness, but everything can be worked on by practice, which nobody wants to do to get better since they think it's wasted. But if you want to get better, that's the best way. So thanks for that comment, OG Charlie Bone. Seth, as an esports coach, I know you sometimes diminish your value as a member in that role, as somebody who unlocks the computer lab and makes sure nobody's pulling up porn on the TVs, on the computers. I mean, uh, but when it comes to talking to your kids about just getting better at the game, like what's that? What are those conversations like?
It's very different because the way we kind of run it, and this may be just kind of a me thing. I don't know. Nobody sends you to conferences for esports. Well, I'm sure it happens somewhere, but I'm not getting sent off to conferences in Orlando to learn how to be an esports coach.
Trust me,
They
I
kind
know
of
pro esports coaches. You don't want to sit in on a seminar led by any of them.
I'm sure I can only imagine, yeah. But for me personally, it's kind of like I like to look at it like I'm more of a moderator, and because you can only really coach it so much because on any given day you might have 3, 4 different kinds of games. It's almost like you're trying to coach like basketball, football, soccer, and literally in some cases you kind of are because some people are playing Madden or 2K or whatever. So there's kind of just a lot going on. The conversation for me kind of tends to go towards like, well, just making sure you're maximizing your practice time and the way that you do those things. You'd be surprised, like sometimes not to throw shade at any of my children, but I've had people before come up to me like, at the end of the day or even at lunch. Halfway through the day and be like, Mr. Martin, I don't think I'm going to make it to practice today. I'm just so tired. I'm so tired, and I just don't think I've got it in me today. And I'm like, to play Mario Kart. And some people take it more seriously than others for sure. And that's always appreciated as a coach. But like people are going to take it as much as as far as they want to go. It's not like right now it's a huge spectator sport anyway, and like people are paying money to show up and watch. They can't even show up and watch. We're not even streaming stuff really. Some schools do that. We just don't really have the capability right now. So really, I mean, there's no harm, no foul for right now. Like it's as serious as they want to take it. Um,
Is it varsity?
some, it can be. It's some of the games are like VHSL, Virginia High School League Sports. So like our Smash Ultimate Team runs through that. Rocket League and League of Legends, and everything else is kind of like a club sport almost. But we've only really had Smash going for the last couple of years. That's kind of our biggest contender right now.
Yeah. Um, I don't know if you knew this about me, but I coached middle school baseball for a few years. Um,
I did not know that. I don't think.
yeah,
How did
me
I not know that?
yeah, me and my brother, right when I got out of college, when I was just starting out in adult life, we coached the middle school baseball team for a couple of years, and it was a ton of
That's
fun.
that's right. We kind of lost touch for a few years there, didn't
Yeah,
we?
that's true. We didn't
Found our
reconnect.
way back home.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, here we are. But I don't know, man. Like that's a fun age to coach, mostly because they're all like they're finally kind of good enough at the game to start focusing in on what they are individually good at, right? And like can start to develop their own like unique skills, right? I mostly stopped coaching because parents suck. Like we had a dad who would like show up to every game with a lineup card with like his kid batting leadoff. I'm like, dude, your kid hasn't hit a ball all season. Like, why is he batting leadoff? Anyway, but you know, every now and again we would get a kid who would come in who like didn't know what hand to put on top of the other hand when he was holding the bat, but would want to be like, "Hey man, I want to know how to throw a curveball." And I'm like, "Well, you gotta learn the basics of the game first, right?" And I was actually watching. It's funny. This is 2 weeks in a row I've brought up flats, but I was watching a flats video the other day. He was spectating a bronze Spider-Man player in Rivals, and this guy like could not hit the broadside of a barn when he was like in the middle of a fight, but he was like hitting all of the like B hop tech and like edge of the map tech, like outside of spawn and all this sort of stuff. So it was like clear that this guy had spent time like teching in the lab on how to do all of this like Spider-Man specific tech, but hasn't spent any time on like laying the foundational groundwork of just like what it takes to be basically good at one of these kinds of games. Like just crosshair management, like understanding your cooldowns, like all of those sorts of things. And I I really think that that is something I ran into a lot when I was coaching in traditional sports. I'm sure you see it a lot with like kids in high school too, of just like putting the cart before the horse, where it's like you want to be the expert on something before you even learn the basics of how to do the thing.
Yeah, and there's a lot of like, and sometimes it's warranted because especially like you and I are in our advanced age now,
Mhm.
comparatively,
Yeah. Okay.
and
There we go.
like kids think that that they know a lot more than they actually do, and especially with something like esports, you get sometimes a very particular crowd in there, and they tend to like they're very set in their ways, and so that could be kind of hard to break or manage sometimes. Sometimes it's almost like, well, I'm not going to argue with you. You do it your way and continue to lose, or how about you try it? From somebody who may have like, let's just try it. Wild idea. Let's just try what the coach recommends. Whatever, could be cool.
I remember we had this kid. I think this was my first year coach, and he joined our team mid year. And he showed up and he had this bag of catcher's gear that I'm not kidding, dude. This was like hundreds of dollars worth of catching gear, like super high end shit. And I guess he assumed because he showed up with this stuff, like he was just going to play catcher for us. And I was like, we'll try you back there. But like, just didn't know how to do anything. Like, couldn't catch the ball, couldn't stop the ball, like everything going to the backstop and all this sort of stuff. And like, yeah, we just you have people who show up in these spaces and they think they know a lot more than they actually do, and they focus on all the wrong things. And this whole conversation is going to become relevant near the end of this episode when we get into our main topic for the day, because we're going to start talking about what are the skills that are most important when it comes to being a good hero shooter player. But yeah, we appreciate the comments that everybody left, and if we didn't read your comment, try again on some other video that we post this week, and we'll pull some more comments for next week's episode as well. But Seth, let's jump into the episode and let's talk about our weekend rivals. What did you get up to this week in game?
Well, number one, I got into out of game googling that Chris Pratt actually was in Moneyball.
Oh, was he?
He was one of the baseball players, and
Oh.
he thought that he was too fat for Moneyball, working alongside Brad Pitt. But whatever. I also did not watch Moneyball, but whatever. In Rivals, I had a pretty. I mean, I had a fine week. I definitely, Justin, this is for you. I did play the game. I did not advance anywhere really. I got about halfway through Gold 3, so I went back up from Silver 1 to Gold 3. I haven't been playing a lot of comps still necessarily, but I've been kind of more just like focused on just trying to have some fun, working on some event challenges, stuff like that, working on my Madripoor, my Logan, the patch skin, stuff like that. So I definitely do want to grind it out a little bit more, but I've also been trying to focus on some other things that have been kind of taken away from that climb a little bit more.
Mm. We played together finally, which was nice.
Yeah,
We
one
got
time,
yeah,
yeah.
one time. Dude, I'm almost out of bronze. Again, playing ranked is like taking liquid medicine. It tastes terrible. Um, But as soon as I get out of bronze and you and I can play together again, it's gonna feel a lot better. And uh but it's just the quality of those games, man. Like it's just such a crapshoot. And not that every other rank isn't a crapshoot. This is just a particular kind of crapshoot that is tough. But I got in played quick play a few times this week just to knock out some challenges and things like that. I still didn't log on the weekend and play any of the event. Did you try the event when it came back around?
The big giant head event.
Yeah, did it come back?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It did. I did that. I'm still not really sure if I missed out, like if you could actually have gotten two different big giant heads. So if anybody knows, feel free, drop that in the comments, so I can know if I missed out on anything. I chose Thor for my big giant head, just because with that Herald of Galactus skin, you get like the big giant braids and stuff, the flowing mane. You look like Radon. I think it was Radon, whoever it is from Elden Ring, big giant horse guy, just flowing locks or whatever. And I don't know, thought it looked pretty cool. I have not used this, the emote at all, but it's nice to have. I'm a sucker for stuff, so as long as they keep dropping this stuff, I'm gonna keep coming and picking it up as long as I can.
So it gives you an emote that gives you a big head.
Yeah, you just like pop the emote and your head enlarges, engorges,
Oh,
something like
an
that.
an engorged head.
An engorged head. My God.
Speaking of stuff, let's hop into the news. We got new stuff coming this week, as we do every week. We got some new skins coming for Rocket Raccoon and Squirrel Girl. As a newly forged Squirrel Girl main, Seth, what do you think about you? You've just been playing a lot of Squirrel Girl lately, right?
Compared to what I was playing, yeah. I've been dabbling a little bit more in DPS here and there. When I go DPS, it's probably Squirrel Girl or that or Storm. But it's been fun. I like this skin. I think the Rocket Raccoon skin is like on the main screen of the game or something like that. So that's not a big shock, but I do like it a lot. I like the whole tropical vibe. I used to love some of the Overwatch summer skins when they would drop here and there. So this kind of makes me think of that. I'm definitely down for it. And if I didn't have a bunch of Squirrel Girl skins that I'm not using already, I'd probably be a little more tempted for this. But I think Strange, I think the Multiverse of Madness for Strange is going to be my next skin. The hands won me over after talking about it last week.
Yeah, yeah, because you already got the costume coin Squirrel Girl skin, right?
Yeah, I got that before they gave it away for free. Well, that's again still not better. And I've got Mag skin, I've got Thor skin, I've got most of the characters I play, I have skins for, but I've been dabbling a little bit more in Strange too, and he's getting more and more tempting for me.
I'm just gonna say lock in for 3 months of bathing suit clad superheroes. All right, we're gonna see a lot of abs. We're gonna see a lot of butts. All right, because Marvel Rivals is gonna cash in on the summer vibe. And look, man, I haven't been reading as many X-Men comics as of late as I was a few weeks ago, but in that arc I've been reading, there's a lot of like they're just playing beach volleyball, and it's like just chisel bodied superheroes in swimsuits and stuff like that. And the whole time I'm looking at these images and I'm like, Nettie is going to be eating good when they start putting this stuff in the games.
Oh, like I think I think I read some of Age of Apocalypse once upon a time, and I just noticed how busty everyone was. Everybody, like you can't be in the comic book, you can't and be
Even the
female
men,
and not have even the men, even
giant
the
pectorals.
pectorals, baba boom, or whatever. Hopefully, we don't get banned for that. I don't know if you saw it, whatever. Um, yeah, I definitely wouldn't be surprised if they did start cashing in that way. And to be honest, they're gonna make shitloads of money because that's what. Look at how many people have. What's the Invis skin with the butt?
Oh, the dude, I always want to say magic, but it's not magic. It starts with it. It's not mayhem, dude. That's gonna drive me crazy.
Something
Well,
like that. Is it the one with like the spike helmet or whatever?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Hold on.
Yeah.
Invisible Woman skins.
Look at how many of those we saw for a while there, though, right? Like, and then look how many Emma Frost. Like, you're almost not an Emma Frost main if you don't have that skin with the boobies in there. So like
Malice.
uh,
That's the skin.
malice. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's my next skin is the mommy Frost skin because I've been playing a ton of Emma Frost. Like she's basically been my season 2 main at this point, and because I'm realizing that if you just grab and choke slam and kick the tank into your team over and over again, there's no faster way to tilt the enemy tank off the planet than that.
Makes
Um,
sense. That
and,
tracks.
and in ranked, by the time like the round switches sides, that tank's already checked out. And he's like, I'm so sick of getting choke slammed. It's like, dude, just go Thing. And then I can't do that. Although Thing is kind of hard countered by Emma. So I don't
To
know.
a degree, yeah.
Um, but I do like the gun design on the Rocket Raccoon skin with like it's like a water pistol with the water jetpack on the back. I think that's pretty cool. But I don't play Rocket Raccoon, so I won't, and I don't play Squirrel Girl that much either, so I probably won't buy either of these.
Yeah, I'll be passing on those. But if I ever do start dabbling with Rocket a little bit, that would be a little more tempting. I like that whole vibe. I'm a Hawaiian shirt man myself. Got a few of those
All right,
straw hats.
you
It's
have a
the
straw.
shit.
You do have some straw hats, don't you?
Yeah, yeah. I rarely wear them, but I probably should. I've got one with a feather in it.
Mm. All
Yeah.
right. So get us to I don't know, 100 subs on YouTube, and Seth will do a Rocket Raccoon summer skin, Sunshine Raccoon cosplay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, moving on before he can rebut that. This is from Game Rant. Luke Daman over on Game Rant writes Marvel Rivals player count hits a new low. It says, despite recently kicking off its action packed Season 2 update, Marvel Rivals has reached a new all time low player count of 159,426. While an impressive number, all things considered, this figure pales in comparison to where Marvel Rivals was on launch, as well as the months following. This new data suggests that a significant number of players have dropped Marvel Rivals, at least the PC version of the game, though this isn't to say they won't come back. He continues to go on and talk a little bit about the game, but then he says, according to Steam database, Marvel Rivals has reached a new all-time low player count of 159,426. This figure was recorded on May 4th, which comes just a few weeks after the launch of the game's Season 2 update. There are a number of factors that could have resulted in this drop in players, with one of the long-standing issues among the community being the roll queue. What? What is he talking about? Teamwork is a crucial part of Marvel Rivals' experience, though the game has faced criticism over stressing individual performance over class composition. Players have argued since the game's release that Marvel Rivals needs a roll queue system, which could theoretically cut down on those impossible feeling matches. All right, Seth, I think there's a lot of interesting things to unpack here.
Yeah, there's a couple things there. Number one, I'm not aware that people were still saying that. Is that still a thing? I know it's probably been said, but this is like non-news to me almost. Like I don't know. I just tend to I'm not disregard, but I just don't necessarily always see the value in these kinds of stories. The player count dropped to a staggeringly, still quite large number of players, an all-time low of over 100,000 people. So I don't know. Like I'm not putting too much stock into it. It is what it is.
Well, and if we're, all things considered, we're at an even lower rate right now. Because I click on it, we're at
My God.
141,949 people playing right now. You know, let's talk first and foremost about the roll queue thing. I don't know. I don't think this is like a prevalent thing a lot of people are saying. I think in fact a lot of people praise the fact that Rivals doesn't have a roll queue and that flexibility is an option.
It seemed a little like out of left field. Like again, I have not seen that expressed a whole lot. Not that I'm surfing the subreddits throughout the day, but I definitely haven't really heard that from anybody that I've either talked to or read. So that almost seems like a personal bias to me. Like I don't know. I don't want to throw that out there, don't want to accuse anybody of any unethical journalism, folks, but
Now,
I really don't.
does Luke Damon want to have Roku? Possibly, and maybe it's one of the for the uninitiated, I worked at a church for 5 years. And one of the most common things for old people to say is a lot of people are saying such and such. When you ask them who's saying it, you quickly realize it's just that old person thinks it, you know.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so when Luke Damman says a lot of people are saying people want roll cue, it's Luke Damman. All right, let's dig into the numbers here a little bit, Seth. I'm going to share my screen. You can't see this, but if you're in that article and you click on where it says Steam DB, you can pull up these stats too. But you can just trust me.
Hmm.
Let's go to April 12th. So this is the Saturday after season 2 launched. The game spiked to 315,196 players. And this is peak concurrent, I think. This is peak concurrent for that. So let's go to the following Saturday, which would have been the 19th. We go to 220,000. So we've lost basically 100,000 players there. So that's a third of your player base gone in a week. And so then if we go all the way to Tuesday, today, down to 151,000 was the peak today. So that's just about half of the players retained from season 2 down to today, which if we're looking at the launch of season 1.5, which was the 22nd, 437,000 there. And if we go a few weeks out from that to the 4th, 260,000. So I don't know. That seems about on par for retention numbers. I know I'm throwing out a bunch of numbers to keep up with, but
Yeah, my English brain can't keep up. Like it's number one, I think it's important with all these kinds of stories. Like anytime you hear these kinds of numbers about like Steam stuff and on any gaming podcast with any game, number one, it's concurrent, so that's just the number of people that are logged on at any given time. That's just Steam, right? Which you can argue that maybe the Steam numbers are indicative of like a larger trend across. Like maybe the numbers maybe might be similar on the Sony end of things, or on Xbox's servers or whatever. Um, it is what it is, like just everything's gonna fizzle a little bit at some point. This game, I still like all I hear about. Like most people or if they're not playing Fortnite, if they're not the kids at my school, then most people are still engaging with this game, at least in the circles that I run around or have any experience with. And I'm not seeing any like just drop off in news or anything on my social feeds or anything like that. So um, are the numbers a little lower? Sure, it's going to happen. Um, but it's had a great run so far, and just like anything else, it's gonna have its highs and lows. So I don't want people out there thinking like it's dead, that we did it, it's over, it was fun. Now let's move on with our lives. Like it's season 2, we're about to start getting these lightning fast month-long seasons coming up here soon, sooner than later. Like let's enjoy the ride. We'll keep on keeping on. And if the player count drops a little lower, it's fine. That's just any one given moment. It's a snapshot in time.
yeah, and all it takes is a new character release, a new map release, a new game mode tweak, anything to bring players back in and to claw some of that back. Now, this is actually less of a fall off in terms of percent retained, which is a much more important metric for games than like total player base. Um, than the start of season 1.5 to the same point in that season. So I'm with you. I'm not like sounding any alarms or anything like that. I'm not like, oh, Marvel Rivals dead game or or anything. Um Now, I do think that it brings up a, a point of discussion that maybe shouldn't necessarily be motivated by numbers, but I think it is something that is worth talking about a little bit, and that is just I think the culture that surrounds these kinds of games, Seth, and you brought up Fortnite, which I think is a really great kind of like mirror to hold up against a game like Marvel Rivals. Not in the sense of it being like a one-to-one product. I mean, obviously Fortnite's a battle royale. It's become a platform that has like a bunch of other kinds of games within it as well. And so it's got all of these different like tendrils that go out into the gaming community and gather up fans. But I think a big difference in a game like Rivals as opposed to a game uh uh like Fortnite or even a game like I don't know, like Rocket League to an extent or something like that, is that after you extend to the life of that game to a certain point, the casual audience in that game is going to start to dwindle, and you're just left with like the hardcore players. And when I say hardcore, I mean that in two ways. It's number one, the hardcore competitive guys who are like all about the grind and want to, they want to make Celestial, and the hardcore content guys that are like, I want to unlock every skin, get all the stuff within the battle pass, and like dedicate all their time to completing all the challenges and all of that sort of stuff. And the games that can successfully maintain a player base that just like is plateaued or even climbing over time are the games that can cater to a casual player base over time. And Rivals doesn't really feel like it has that kind of gameplay loop. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. Um, I mean, it's impressive that it's done this so far. I mean, like I think this. I don't know that I would say this is going to be people's game of the year necessarily, but it's been the hottest thing for a while. I saw some meme the other day that was like, 2024, and Rivals was like at the top of all these other awesome games, like like in different apples to oranges for some of these, but like Elden Ring's DLC, the Helldivers content. I think they got did Helldivers itself drop in 2024? It seems
No.
like forever ago.
Yeah, no.
Was that 2023?
No, I'm sorry. It was 2024. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So like that, I don't know. Rivals like right in December of
Yeah.
24. So yeah, like it was. I mean, it's been a phenomenon in a lot of ways. They've started releasing those Funko Pops that we've talked about. I got my Magneto yesterday. I'm hoping they come out with some Marvel Legends. I will buy all of those fuckers. And I hope that they don't start coming up with unique skins and different, what they did with Apex Legends figures. It's going to be my, you know, livelihood,
Yeah. Yeah.
my essence.
No room for casuals in Marvel Rivals Funko Pops. Only hardcore.
Yeah, yeah,
um and in a lot of ways I think communities for games like Rivals, like Overwatch, like Apex Legends, like Valorant, they kind of cannibalize themselves because they become so self-absorbed with their own like competitiveness and their own kind of like metas and the own languages that they build and stuff like that. They become insular to newcomers. Whereas I feel like Fortnite, and maybe because like Fortnite has solo modes and those sorts of things, like you can kind of pick it up and like not feel like you're being constantly bombarded by vitriol and toxicity by the community that surrounds it. But like, I don't know, at some point, do you feel like Marvel Rivals reaches a point where it's like unapproachable for new
I
audiences?
mean, there's always a risk, as I feel like that. I feel like people felt that about Overwatch to some degree. Like, especially I can't imagine coming into that game way later on and trying to lock in competitively because you get eaten alive by the people in the chat. So I don't know. Fortnite's so unique and so wild because it is so many things at the same time. When's the last time you've played Fortnite?
Oh my god, I don't think I played
Back when we
Fortnite
were,
since
like,
like
playing when it first
2020.
dropped on the Switch, yeah, something like that, it's been
Larry still
forever
plays
for
all
me.
the time with his kids, and so like Larry talks to me about it all the time. But
Okay, yeah, Connor, my son just kind of he casually opens it here and there. He finally downloaded it. He was curious. He was playing like Fortnite games on Roblox, and I was like, "Well, we can just get Fortnite. It's free. Check it out, see what you think." It's like, you've got Lego Fortnite, you've got all the various battle royale modes and all their iterations. You've got I didn't realize that like people kind of have made this into Roblox. Like they've opened it up where you can
Yeah.
create modes and games and stuff like that too. So it's wild. And so that definitely has opened it up in some ways. I don't know what that would look like for a game like Rivals and whether, how you would open something like that up. But the game mode variety, I think they've done a nice job so far. Like you've got your Doom matches, you've got Conquest and, alternate game modes. Kind of more deathmatchy stuff too, which of course Overwatch had. But as long as they continue to play around with that, um, I don't see why they couldn't end up, maybe um, doing something different. I have no idea what that something could be, but I mean, when you've got a bunch of 3D third person models for all these characters, I mean, there's no end. I feel like to what you can do with that if you wanted to, if you take the time and the money to do it.
Yeah, I think the question of like how do you keep a hero shooter approachable after years of development is a question that if I had the answer to, I'd probably like have a much higher paying job in the games industry than I currently have. Because just like by way of just like the bloat of the roster, it's gonna become because like you have to know what every alt line is. And, like I'm gonna bring up Flats again, but I was watching. So Flats is doing this piece of content where he's coaching a VTuber um, who's never played Rivals before, and in fact, he's taken on an additional challenge because the VTuber he's coaching has also never played a first person shooter before. So he's coaching this VTuber who's never played a first person shooter before, and the VTuber was like, "How do I know if it's my ult or the enemy's ult line that I'm hearing?" And it's like that's actually a really good good question. That
Do you know what my children have figured out? My students,
What's that?
you turn on the subtitles,
Yeah, a lot
and
of players do that. Yeah.
yeah, and apparently, like I guess the names show up in red if it's the enemy ult, and I don't have enough. My mind doesn't work that quickly, or maybe I don't know. I don't track things that quickly to be able to really tell. So I've got my subtitles on now. It doesn't help me at all, in that because it's there and it's gone. In any moment, you're hearing a buttload of noises at any time. So it is what it is. It's
Yeah.
I definitely think that's an area of improvement too, as we've talked about before.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I think that's a good tip, but the point is just like there's all the mechanics of a game that you have to pick up when you first pick it up. How do I shoot? How do I use my abilities? All that sort of stuff. Hero shooters add another level of complexity to that because then you have a roster of 30 characters who all do different things, and not only do I need to know what my character does, but I need to know what all 11 of the other characters on it do. And in a hero shooter, people can change characters at any given time, and so like the amount of game knowledge that you have to have pretty quickly is like overwhelming. Like I got into League of Legends really late, like 10 years after the game released. And dude, I was so overwhelmed just trying to learn.
Yeah,
I mean, there's still characters who I like when I'm watching Pro League, and I've worked in League esports for 2 years. Like, but I'll still be watching a League game and somebody will get drafted. I'm like, I need to go look up their kit. Like, I don't know what that that character does because there's like 150 characters in the game. And so it's like, hey, we're in season two, and some of this fall off is just like natural fall off. But every game has to ask themselves how they're going to retain a player base. But I think hero shooters especially have to constantly ask themselves, like, how do I continue to make my game approachable for new players?
yeah, and at the rate that this is going to start happening, at a new character a month, a new season a month, that number is going to escalate really quickly. Because we're at what 30 odd characters right now, like 35. Does that sound right?
Yeah, something like that.
Somewhere in that ballpark, between 30 and 40, and starting. in like 2 months, or by the end of the summer at the latest, pretty much, we're going to start getting like 12 characters a year, and that's a lot. That's going to add
Hmm.
up very, very, very quickly. I would say they'd have league, and they probably could have league beat if they want to, just in that Marvel pantheon. I don't see how. Almost like, I'm not a Marvel Rivals decline conspiracist or anything like that, but a part of my mind wonders, like, how long can they keep this going? Um, and I'm sure the answer is infinite, as as long as the players are there. But like, when are you gonna start getting like reskins of other characters? And how do you differentiate like Captain America from Red Guardian, or characters that could be almost like again, literally like reskins of other characters? How do you get like differentiate Vault Guardian? He's like a green Iron Man thing, from an Iron Man on the battlefield or something like that, or a War Machine. War Machine's a little different, but you get the idea. There's just so much that could be done. I'm like, how far does it go before they either have to backtrack that, or you know we just people start losing interest, or things become samey, or whatever.
Well, they've been figuring out how to release new popes every 2,000 years. So, I mean, for
There's
2,000
a
years.
system. There are
Y-
systems in play.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's systems in place. I think Marvel Rivals has at least a millennia in it. So, I think we can figure this out. But I will say this: I do think a benefit that Marvel has over League, over Overwatch, over any other like of the hero genre is that because they're able to work with these known characters, is there's a little less of a bridge that you have to build. Because when I come into the game, I at least have some kind of a logical understanding about, like, okay, Wolverine is like a DPS, like Iron Man's a DPS, Hulk is a tank, like those, like it, some of the stuff just kind of makes sense because of my familiarity with those characters in general. Now, when you start adding in those motherfuckers you were just talking about, who I don't know if you just made them up or if they're real, uh, that's a different ballgame.
That could be a segment. That could be a segment.
Yeah, is this real Marvel? Is this a real Marvel character? I will get none of them right. I know nothing. So, all right, Seth, you ready to move on to our topic of the day?
I am, and incidentally, the Yankees are like absolutely punishing the Padres for that loss in the rain last night. It's happening right now. We're there, baby.
Yeah,
Anyway.
Cleveland's up 9-1 in the bottom of the ninth, so we're good.
Ooh.
We're good there too. So, all right, man. Well, we're kind of in the doldrums of season two. We're waiting on news about season 2.5 and Ultron and patches and all that sort of stuff. I think next week I want to have enough
Patches as in Wolverine skins, or patches as in content updates?
content updates. Content
Okay,
updates.
both really.
Well, I mean, for some, yes. Um, and next week I do want us to have enough of a good view of what's going on in the game to start to do our tier list. But I decided, let's do something a little fun today. We've been talking a lot about competitive play and uh, uh you know mastering uh hero shooters and stuff like that. So what I wanted to do is I put together a list of 10 useful skills to have in a hero shooter. And what I want us to do collectively, Seth, is to rank these skills based on how important we truly think they are for a player to have in game. And so really what we're trying to do is just think about building our ideal teammate in Marvel Rivals. What is most important to us that our ideal teammate has? So I've got these 10 things listed. I have no clue how we want to do this, Seth. Um, I just kind of
Do we work top, or do we do top to bottom, or bottom to top? Let's go with that to start it off. But
um well, I don't have these in any
you've watched
particular
more of these
order.
videos. You've watched more of these things than I have. So you take the lead. There's an argument for both, and I think I've got an answer for both
Yeah.
already.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, these are in no particular order. So, what if instead of ranking them at first, like 1 to 10, what if we just gave them like a grade, A, B, C, D, and
Okay.
then from there,
Okay.
then we can sort them by letter grade, and then we can sort them within their tiers. Let's do that.
And do you have a graphic? Are you that fancy this week?
No, dude, no, I
No.
don't
All
prepare
right.
for this show.
All right, let's do it, baby.
All right. So although that is a wonderful idea that I probably should have done. So let me just zoom in here and I'll share my screen. All right. So ranking our most important in-game skills and so Seth, let's talk about number 1, cooldown management. All right. So understanding the timing of your cooldowns, and that sort of thing. How important do you think that is for a player? Is this an S tier, A tier?
That is, I mean, that's high for me, because that's just again like a fundamental of the game. It's not a game breaker necessarily, because I mean, you can you can min max that stuff any number of different ways, right? Just like how you want to use the cooldown. I'm thinking like when I'm playing Thor, that's kind of a unique way of looking at it because yeah, you've got um, different abilities on different cooldown timers. You also got your as whatever it's called, your Asgard force or something like that. That you have to manage your hammers on the screen at the same time. So some of it's just basic foundational, like you kind of have to understand a little bit of how all that stuff works. I'm gonna go A on that for me. It's not the end. It's not the end of the world if your management's a little off track. It is what it is, but I definitely do think it's important because if you are going to be a good teammate, you definitely need to be able to manage that and not just have, you're not wasting your abilities or you're not wasting time at the same time.
Yeah, I think A is a good place for cooldown management because I think that if you don't have good cooldown management, there are certain characters that you can play still to cover over that sin, right? Like you can play Punisher and not have great cooldown management, right? Like if you've got good aim, you can play Punisher. If you've got you can play like Iron. Like there's a lot of DPS you can probably play and have pretty decent cooldown and not have great cooldown management. Um so yeah, I think your aim can cover over a multitude of sins. And I think cooldown management, while important, is one of those things that good aim can cover over. But if you're going to stretch out into like a tank role or a support role, I think your cooldown management skyrockets in its importance because there's nothing worse than like needing an ability in a clutch situation, but you've wasted it on something. I'm thinking about like mag bubble, right? Where it's like, oh shit, I used mag bubble on myself when I didn't necessarily need it. And now like my Star Lord's going ham in the back line and has no way out. Like, so, that skill goes up in importance when you're thinking about those sorts of like support roles where like other people's safety and like in-game life depends on my cooldown. So I'm with you on an A tier here. So how would you rate your own cooldown management, Seth? Is this something you feel like you're pretty good at?
It depends on the character. Like I mentioned, well, number one, I feel like I've got Cloak and Daggers nailed down. I'm a lord on Cloak and Dagger. It's the one lord I have. I I feel like I've got her down. I'm not just one of those people who like ground time in Doom match or whatever before they kind of put the kibosh on that, right? Um, she's so cool in that she like kind of like we've again mentioned before, like you're kind of playing two characters, and so if you're really min maxing her on the board, you've got to kind of manage and kind of keep those cooldowns in mind, and you almost kind of enter this flow state where you can switch back and forth between the two characters. Each has their own unique cooldown for their abilities, and so it's this really kind of awesome thing. I also love a lot of other characters. You know, Thor is probably my next go-to and probably one that I kind of struggle with. Although I love playing Thor, I feel like I'm pretty solid with him. There are some things though I just don't know how to do. I do not, and I could probably improve my cooldown management that way because like his hammer throw, I'm not good with that. I very rarely, make solid hits with it, or at least like I can make stuff happen. Maybe use it for like like a final blow or something. Um, Minute to minute, I don't know that it's necessarily happening for me, but I'm kind of more so. I sometimes I feel like I'm wasting time because I'm holding on for his big, Thor Force. Thor Force is what it's called, I think,
Mhm.
where you're throwing, the lightning baseballs, and that's kind of like a tank melter or something like that. So I've got room for improvement myself, but again, I think it just kind of depends on the character, on the role, and on the game.
Yeah. I feel like my cooldown management isn't great a lot of times. Especially like when I'm on support, I feel like I waste my cooldowns a lot. Especially I think about like the ice up ability on like Luna Snow. I kind of use that on cooldown when in reality, like I should be using that a little bit more strategically and things like that. And then for some characters, I'm just really bad about, dude. I'm real bad with cloak and dagger at like using cloak's ability, like invisibility ability to like get out of sticky situations and stuff like that. So
Yeah, it's a very like you almost have to kind of have like a frame sense, almost to like just know exactly when you can be too late with it too, and it's there's some finesse to it.
all right, let's talk about the next skill, ultimate. And there's a few things kind of mixed in here, but managing your ultimate economy, ultimate tracking, and timing the use of your ultimate. And again, guys, this is going to vary based off of who you're playing, the role you're playing, and things like that. So we're speaking very generally about these things.
What's the lowest grade? I'm not going lowest, but is it F?
We'll say we'll go S to D. Yeah,
S to D.
yeah.
Okay, so no Fs. I'm going. Then I feel like you're gonna place this a little higher than I will. I'm going C personally. It's definitely a valuable skill. It can be a game changer for sure. I know that I'm not very good at this, and again, gold 3 current character right now, highest of all time, diamond 1. I am not a professional um, Marvel Rivals athlete, but it's good. It's good. And again, like there are ways I know of that you can kind of do it. I just don't know that it's one of the more valuable skills to have. It can be clutch and awesome if you know how to do it, but I think the game can definitely be played really well um, without min maxing, like tracking other teams' ultimates and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'd probably put it on like the lower end of B, higher end of C. So I think C is a fine ranking for this. I think the only part in this is maybe the timing part piece of it. And the only
Yeah,
thing where I put like an overemphasis on the timing of your ultimate is like support ults, right? Like there's nothing worse than seeing your support or being a support who pops an ult and being like, what the fuck did I just do? Or what the fuck did I
like
just
well,
see?
shit. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. That's kind of where my mind went with that too. Yeah. So again, valuable. Yes. Maybe give it a C plus. Give it a B minus. Whatever. Um, I
I
like it.
I feel like if this was Overwatch, I would rank this a little higher because like ultimates are harder to get in Overwatch. Like they take longer, but in Rivals, where it's like, oh shit, I just like wasted my ult. It's like I'm gonna have an ult again in a fight and a half. You know, like it doesn't
I
take
was
long.
popping off. Who was I playing as last night? I don't even remember. I was popping off as this person last night, and I felt like I was getting my ults at rates that I had never before experienced. I was like, oh my god, I've got ults again. How is this? How can this be? It be. It was.
See, I wish I could put this higher in the tier list though, because this is something I feel like I'm good at. Like I feel like I make pretty good like decisions with my ult. I feel like I'm really good at ult tracking. Also, like, but yeah, it is one of the less valuable skills in the game. All right, number 3 on the list, I've got positioning and spacing. Seth, to me, this is like S tier. Like, if you don't know
Oh
where you
yeah, yeah.
belong and you don't know how to take space like intelligently, um, yeah, you're in for a bad time in a hero shooter.
1000%. And like it can. I think that's like the min max is taking space and stuff like that. And that some of that probably bleeds into game sense as well, which we'll get to soon. But yeah, you kind of just need to know. Like I was playing some competitive with one of my students yesterday, and we're watching, like, I'm just watching and I'm shouting at this invis, like, just why are you in the front? Why are you playing attack invisible woman? Like, there's no sense behind it. Um, it you know there's lots of that going around. Uh, just kind of just knowing where to be and how to be valuable goes a long way for sure.
And I think just like in I think you're right. There is like an overlap in the Venn diagram between like positioning, spacing, game sense, those sorts of things. Um, but like I think Rivals is such a game of tempo. And one of the things I love about watching pro Rivals players is seeing how they leverage the tempo that they create in their winning plays, like how they snowball a winning play into like winning a point, into winning a map and stuff like that. And I think a great example of this is like an aggressive use of like an Adam Warlock ult, right? Where it's like, okay, hey, we won this fight. I've got an Adam Warlock ult. Like, let's just push spawn doors, feed our brains out, and like use our res, so that we don't like lose all this space that we've created and stuff like that. And like, um, Rivals has so many cool mechanics where you can like play with the creation of space, like Doctor Strange portals, like the Adam Warlock ult, and things like that. So, but no, if you're talking about like fundamentals, like hey, you need to know what hand goes on top of the other hand of the bat. Positioning and spacing is one of those things. Like, don't be at the front of the fight if you're Invisible Woman. Like, don't be at the back if you're Hulk. Like those sorts of things. So yeah,
Yeah.
definitely S tier. Um, Crosshair placement and like target tracking. What do you think about this, Seth?
Dead air.
He
I
ponders.
I ponder. You start this one off for us. I'm really, really super torn.
I think you're only as good as where you set yourself up to start from, right? And we've all seen our parents play video games and run around staring at the floor, right? And that's an extreme example of bad crosshair placement. But I've watched enough bronze gameplay videos to see guys running around as Bucky looking at the floor, or you know aiming where no character's head is going to be and stuff like that. So I think knowing where to place your crosshairs and knowing how to track players, as they're moving is really important so that you're not dropping your damage. Like, oh shit, like this Iron Man's flying through the sky. Oh man, I lost track of him. Like I did half damage, but now I can't finish the job. That being said, I think there's a third of the characters where the people you're focused on shooting are your own teammates. So like, how important is tracking really? Like,
A third is a generous number, but sure. We're
a
feeling
third
about
of
a
what your
fifth
team
there.
comp should
Yeah.
be. Sorry.
You're right. There we go. There we go. The ideal team comp. Yeah. So what's your grade for that?
I would probably
I think.
still put crosshair placement at like a high B, low A, probably.
Okay. Okay. I want to go B. Like it is definitely important. It's one of those things, and it depends. I think kind of why I want to go lower is just because it does depend on kind of what role you're playing too. It's most important as your vanguards, or sorry, as your duelist for the most part, right? For your DPS roles. It's a little less important for your tanks. Like it's still definitely up there. But I think a little, you can kind of play a little faster and looser when you're Thing and you've got this big giant fist
Mm-hmm.
that just kind of plows anything in front of it, or if you're Hulk and you're just kind of boom, 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 boom. Um, and you know, it varies by degrees, right? But if you're Doctor Strange or Mag, you've got a little bit of burst damage, or kind of like three projectiles you can launch across, and maybe kind of drag them a little bit. It's important. Support again, like Necros. It's that no skill thing he was talking about before, right? That we all disagree with, but just to kind of put it out there, yeah. You almost for a big chunk of those characters, you don't really need crosshair management or anything like that. So that's kind of what the kind of support in makes me drag that down a little bit. Um, and just again the way that it varies from character to character. So I'm gonna go B, so we can land. Let's B plus,
Yeah, yeah, I think that's
A
good.
minus.
I think a high B is fine. Is fine there. I
Okay.
think that's good. All right, next on the list, game sense and map awareness. Yeah, for me, I think this is another S tier for me. Like just understanding what's going on in the game, not getting C9, knowing when the team fight is lost, knowing when to group, like not throwing out an ult when it's 1v6, like that sort of stuff. I think is really important. Knowing when you're in last fight territory and when to contest the point, but like all of those sorts of things. Game sense is sort of a meeting point of a lot of the skills that are on this list already. Um, but just in that, like, I don't know, these games sort of have like a feel to them that you have to have of like, oh shit, like my kill feed's kind of going off, and I need to have an understanding of what's going on around me.
Yeah, like you can always tell when you're in those lobbies where just like people have no idea. I was playing just last night again, one of these games that we were talking about before, and like it's convoy, and you're trying to get the cart. I think we were on Yggdrasil path. So we're trying to get the goats to the first checkpoint, and it was just the hardest struggle because they had a Hulk that was, was really doing a good job of pushing us back and jumping into the back line, and that's great. The team was doing a great job. I'm not going to say of peeling to support their healers, but they kind of were just like trying to kill the Hulk, and everybody was trying to kill the Hulk, and nobody was worried about stopping the objective. Or when we were on offense, pushing the objective. It all became about let's just try to kill Hulk. And, again, that's valuable. How about we kind of change the goal a little bit and maybe we push him back or we just put some more pressure on, but we don't all just kind of go in for the kill. We still have to go to the objective. We still have to do the game, play the actual video game. I think, yeah, I would agree. S tier. I could almost be talked to a low A. But yeah, this is. I mean, it's pretty fundamental. Just kind of understanding the logic of the game, and kind of keeping. It's a weird thing to explain or to think about too much, but you kind of have to have this like mental image of what's going on around you that you don't always necessarily see, but you kind of just have to kind of be aware of, like just kind of knowing where you last saw this person, where they're going to be, kind of keeping your ears open to or looking out for pings, that kind of thing. So it's definitely much more than just pull trigger shoot thing.
Mhm. Speaking of deciding who to shoot, target prioritization. Seth,
Hmm.
where would you put this one?
I'm torn on this one too because I mean it is definitely important, and I think the best plays are the ones where players are prioritizing targets together, right? So I want to go. I definitely want to go. I want to say A. That's where my gut's telling me to go. It is important. I think that teams can definitely get by without focusing single targets, but the more you do it, the better you're going to be, right? Um, I think that's one of the like I if you're playing in a six stack against another six stack, that's going to be the differentiator between those two teams winning, right? Is who is able to do that kind of that kind of bleeds into shot calling a little bit too, but whatever. Um, who are we going for? How do we make sure that we're not all just all over the place? Some well, yeah, I'm going to start getting too much into shot calling there, but yeah, I go A.
Yeah, I don't know. I struggle with this one because I do agree that it's like if you want to play this game well, and if you want to play this game to the best of your ability, target prioritization is something you should understand. Like, hey, killing the supports first is always going to be like optimal, or killing like the DPS that's tormenting your backline first is like always going to be optimal. Um, However, I do feel like you can win a lot of games without this. Like, just kill the thing, like shoot the thing that's in front of you. And for
Yeah,
that it pushes it down for
sorry.
me. But go ahead.
Y- Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I wasn't even thinking of like kind of the moment to moment prioritization, like just kind of knowing, hey, I can focus on Big Bertha, this tank over here, or I can focus on the squishy DPS or the squishy, support player. So um, I'm still gonna go A. Again, I could maybe sink to a B for this one just because, but well, what do you want the final grade to be?
Well, yeah, if you're gonna say A, I was gonna say B. Um, so what do we have?
Let's go. Let's go B.
All right,
We'll go B plus.
let's go. We'll go high B here. Um, yeah, we got like a low B with the crosshair placement, high B with the target prioritization. I think that's good. Um, Peaking and peak shooting. So this is something that's going to be a lot more common in something like a Valorant or like a CS:GO or something like that. But I do think this is an undervalued skill in hero shooters. I see far too many people just stand out in the wide fucking open, taking infinite damage and wondering why the healers aren't keeping them alive. And it's like, brother, can't heal you when you're getting shot by six people. So
And there's the inverse to that too, right? Like again, another game last night, one of the same games. Like people were just terrified to go around the corner, and that's like, well, brother, that's where the objective is. Like you have to get to that place. We all kind of have. If we move together, it's going to work out a lot better. But nobody would go to the place where we're supposed to be. Let's just stand back and continue to charge ults, that kind of thing. So. I don't know. What do you want to say for this one?
yeah, as important as I think it is, I do think it is one of those things. Like I've won plenty of games with people who just stand out in the open, and just like get healed through the
Mhm.
damage. And so for that, I would put this like low B, high C probably for me. But like, please, for the love of God, if you're listening to this, like understand the cover on the map and like know that a wall, can take infinite damage. And
Some
you
of them,
can't.
some of them.
Yeah, sorry, not in Marvel Rivals. Not every wall can, but yeah,
No, I agree. I was gonna lean C for this one, so
yeah. Let's throw it in the
we'll
C then.
agree on C, a mild C. I think you can min max this kind of thing too. Like, it's something I try to encourage my players to do that nobody ever listens to me about is like if you're playing convoy, use the point, like use the object that you're pushing, and you can kind of use that for peak damage. You can also use it to block things for you. They can't destroy that thing. So like maybe you kind of duck and dodge around it, make sure you know like if you're gone midtown and you're at that first corner immediately as the map begins, use use Herbie, right? Use the cart, and that's gonna kind of negate some of that damage at least every single time. And if you've got shield tanks there with you, then like just sail on, let them do the work, and keep let your DPS plow, do whatever they need to do.
Yeah, and on the flip side, stop standing directly in front of the cart because your supports can't shoot through the cart to heal you.
Yeah, yeah, that kind of thing, and that kind of bleeds into game sense and stuff like that too, right? Like
Yeah,
that's kind of the connector between all of them, I think.
hmm for sure. I think this next one's a tricky one too, Seth. So I'm interested in your thoughts. Communication and shot calling.
D for me. Well, on as a frequent solo queuer, I'm gonna go D just because it is super important again when you get into like if it's a 6v6, if it is like if communication is the difference maker, right? But just like for the average player, you only really see this kind of thing where that becomes relevant when you're in a queue, like when you're in a stack, right? Um, People I think that they're being a lot more helpful than they are when they just start throwing feedback in the chat. Um, and there's a point where that just gets a little ridiculous, right? Like it's again, it is super important, but again, like that's only going to get you so far. I think it's important to communicate that you need healing. If you feel that you're not getting healing, be realistic about it, but like that it's a ping for a reason. Um But just in general, that's kind of one of those just basic fundamentals that people should kind of be aware of is like, yes, I need to heal that person. Yes, I need to retreat to get healing. And that kind of takes like if everybody knows where they need to be and what they need to do, that kind of takes the need for some of the communication out. So I think that kind of negates a lot of the argument for making it kind of a higher ranking skill. What do you think?
No, I completely agree with everything that you just said. I think
Hell yeah.
if we lived in a utopian world where people understood how to communicate in these games and like all of the shot calling that they did was perfectly clear and nobody got tilted at somebody just trying to be helpful, then communication and shot calling could be a lot higher on this. But I agree, like 90% of the communication that people try to do in this game is garbage. um
Yeah.
so most of my rank play is either solo queuing or duo queuing with you, and when we duo queue we're just in party chat talking to each other, and like we'll talk a little bit game strategy between ourselves, but we're not like joining team chat. But I remember back in Overwatch days when we were six stacking with our team, and just how frustrated I would get with like some of the people we'd play with who would just be like tracer, 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 and like no other information, just clogging up the my headphones with tracer over and over again. I'm like, where is she? Is she on you? Is she to the left of the point? Like, and I feel like that's the majority of the comms that I come across if I do hear somebody in team chat is like, uh yeah, it's just low quality. There's no actual strategic talk. If somebody talks about needing healing, they're doing it like angrily and to flame you. They're not like genuinely talking about needing healing or anything like that. And yeah, if we're talking about like what's needed in order to win, I've won plenty of games without having to say a goddamn thing to anyone on my team. So yeah, D for communication and shot calling. Um, hero swapping. To me, again, it's something that's
D.
like, yeah. Did you say D?
It's nice. Yeah, I say D. I
Yeah.
could be talking to C. I think it is important, and I think that it is like it's really helpful if you know how to flex and when to flex. Like if something's not working, let's try something else. I've seen that many times for me. Kind of be the game breaker. Like we're down after the first round of domination or whatever it is. The first round of a competitive like convoy match or something like that. And we make one change, one character changes, or better yet, like some people switch roles or whatever, and then boom, it just kind of like the magic just happens, right? Like the puzzle pieces somehow fall into place. However, you can also like as long as people again know what they need to do and they again have that game sense. I think that negates like again you can I still contend like and we've seen it happen. You can play six support and still win the hell out of a game, right?
Mhm.
It may be rare, but it can happen if you as long as everybody kind of knows what they need to do and have that game sense. So um definitely I think a solid D for me. Um could be a little higher, but I'm in D territory.
I think the two things that the things we've placed in D tier have in common is that they can just as much cost you a game as they can win you a game. Right?
And you never know
Yeah, you
in
can
the
just as
moment, right?
easily lose a game from your hero swaps as you can. Like you can try to get too cute with your comp, trying to counter whatever the other team is running and lose your game. Ruin your ult economy, play something that's not in your comfort zone, you know, not understand what exactly counters what the other team is running and try to do. Last week we were talking about like just mind numbingly brain dead going into more because you see a Spider-Man, but not actually understanding why that works, um, so hero swapping has its place, but I don't think it's necessarily like a required skill to be great.
For sure.
So I'm with you on D. I would put it over communication and shot calling though. Still,
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
and then finally, mechanical execution.
I'm uh I'm going A. I mean, again, that's kind of a fundamental. I think again there's wiggle room because again it's a team shooter. So, there's always, the ability to for somebody else to carry you in some way, even if it's not one person carrying everybody moment to moment, right? It can play out any number of different ways, shake out any number of different ways. Um, it's sorry, you moved it. I lost.
Yeah, sorry, mechanical execution. I put it
It
right here.
disappeared. Yeah. So A, um, just kind of knowing what you can do and how to do it makes a big difference. But again, like I'm kind of coming at it from the mindset of you have other players on the team, and like if you maybe don't have the best aim in your role or whatever, it can be made up by somebody else, or by using one of these other skills like effective communication or targeting or something like that, right? So yeah, I'm going A. That's the only thing I think that keeps me from going S with that. It's like you said, it's how to hold the bat, but you can also, I don't know, you can like write an L and an R on the bat, on the hand, on the grip, right, to tell you where to put your hands. If that works as an analogy, I don't know, but there's something there to help you out.
Yeah, yeah, and I think there's different characters that require different levels of mechanical prowess, and I
Yeah,
gravitate towards the characters that don't require a lot of it. That's why Necros's like assessment of support players doesn't necessarily like tilt me that much because I kind of relate. I'm like, yeah, I play support and tank because I don't want to put the time into learning how to fucking b hop on Spider-Man. Like that doesn't appeal to me, Like I want to pick characters that aren't as mechanically intensive, and because I want my like game sense, my map awareness, my understanding of like positioning and how to take space, like I want those things to be the reasons that I win, and those things cover over the multitude of sins that I know that I have in the mechanical department. And that's the reason I put it at A as well, because it's like, even with those characters that aren't necessarily like mechanically intensive, it's like, hey, I should still know like how to line up to hit multiple people with my like invisible woman primary fire or something like that, because it bounces through multiple targets and stuff, stuff like that. Like I should be able to know how to like choke slam with Emma Frost and then turn them around to kick them back into my team. Like, is that something that requires me to have like frame perfect reaction? Not in the slightest. But is it something that like I need to have a little bit of hands to be able to do? Sure. Um, so yeah, I think it's important to have, but like you said, there's just other things that I can have that help to cover those things up. And people can be like, "Hey, Luke, you're a good Marvel Rivals player," and I'm like, "Glad you're not watching my point of view because like I'm being helpful to everybody else, but it looks like a shit show if you're watching from my end." you know.
yeah.
Um, so here's the final list. Tell me if you agree or disagree with this ordering. So positioning and spacing, I think, is absolutely number one. Game sense and map awareness, number two. Mechanical execution, number three. Cooldown management at number four. Target prioritization at five. Six is crosshair placement and tracking. Seven is ult economy, tracking and timing. Eight is peeking and peak shooting. Nine is hero swapping, and 10 is communication and shot calling.
I'm just noticing it now. I agree. I think this is a great. It's top notch. And we actually this kind of I think it proves to me how balanced we are, in our approach to the game. Because I don't know about you, I did not intend to come up with a 2-2-2-2
Yeah, I wasn't trying to do that either.
list either, but we kind of just made it happen. I was worried at first that we weren't going to have any D's, and we did. It all kind of shook out. So hell yeah, good job, buddy.
Yeah, good job by you as well. I was kind of thinking about this as if like I'm in a character creator and I like have skill points to
Yeah,
put,
yeah.
like what would I put them on? And I wouldn't put a single point on communication and shot calling on my my character creator.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
all right, awesome. Well, let us know in the comments what you guys think. What's the most important in-game skills that you think, and what what skills do you have, and what skills are you still trying to develop? Let us know. Let us know in the comments. All right, man. Well, we're an hour and a half into this show. We've been rolling along. So, what are you trying to do in Rivals this week, and then we'll get ourselves out of here.
I'm gonna say I do. I wanna get to a different level of gold. That's gonna be my goal. I think for this week is just climb out of the slump that I'm in right now. I've played more this week. I just did not progress any. Could I play more? Yes. Could I play less? Probably. But I'm gonna try to put a little bit more conscious effort in there and see how it goes. I want to play with you a little bit more. But I think it's good that I haven't climbed much because
Because
where
I
you
haven't
haven't
climbed
had as
much
much
either. Yeah.
time. Yeah, so we don't really have that option right now. So if nothing else, I might work on syncing a little bit, and then we can finally start to roll a little bit together.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, I think I only need to win one game to be able to play with you. So, last week my goal was to play with you. We did that. This week my goal is to play ranked with you. I imagine we'll be able to do that soon. So, maybe that's what I'll do tonight after I get off here. I'll play some ranked to try to win those couple games I need. So,
Yeah,
um, all right, man. Well, this was a great episode for not a whole lot of news. Appreciate you hanging out with me this week. Appreciate all of you guys for tuning in and listening. And hopefully you have a great week in game. Let us know what you're doing in game. And if you have comments, anything like that, feel free to leave those and make sure you're following us